Hey, Paul Krogdahl here. You know, it is true. Time really does fly when you are having fun. If we travel all the way back to January of 1998, we will find a young Paul Krogdahl starting his long and adventurous journey as an IBM employee. And for those of you who don't know about IBM, and I do hope actually that is a minority of you, IBM, or International Business Machines, is a technology and consulting company headquartered in New York with more than 350,000 employees serving clients all over the world. IBM was initially founded in 1911 as the Computing Tabulating Recording Company, but was later renamed to International Business Machines in 1924. I suppose IBM to many is best known for the mainframe computer, typewriters, ThinkPad laptops, and other computer-related hardware. But all of that was the old IBM. A lot of the hardware and computer components are no longer owned or developed by IBM. Now, yes, there is still a large research and development organization within IBM, but consumer devices like the ThinkPad are long gone. IBM today is focused on cloud and cognitive computing and a number of emerging technologies such as blockchain and quantum computing, where we are doing a lot of what I would say is really cool research and customer engagements. Cool fact. Did you know that the IBM System 360 computer processed the data for the first lunar landing from 240,000 miles away in Houston? And it also calculated the liftoff data required for astronauts Armstrong and Aldrin to rendezvous back with the command module and pilot the flight back to Earth. There's actually some really cool videos on YouTube if you search on this, where they were interviewed by IBM along with some of the IBMers that are still alive and worked on that project. I would recommend you have a check. But enough about the history of IBM. You can always find out more with a quick internet search. Google is there, it will help you. When I joined IBM, I was a developer with a focus on Lotus Notes and Domino. I wonder how many of you can remember that fantastic company that IBM acquired in 1995, or even heard of it. And no, I do not mean the British sports car manufacturing company that was made famous by James Bond having a underwater Lotus car. Lotus was a software company, albeit with the same name, that they had a fantastic and popular database platform built around a hierarchical rather than relational data structure, along with a number of other great tools and applications. They actually gave Microsoft Office a good run for their money for a short period of time with their own Office suite of applications, which I actually think were quite good. It's a shame that they disappeared, but that's life. Now, my journey to IBM was not a straightforward one, as I started my working life as an electronics engineer, working on industrial printing machines with a small company that was based out of North London. That was back in the days when we still had 8-inch floppy disks, and many of the circuit boards in these large industrial printing machines were actually still wire wound rather than soldered. But a lot of that has changed since then, right? And as the industry progressed towards desktop publishing and a growth relying on software and desktop computers, I followed trend and replaced the soldering iron in my hand with a keyboard on my desk. And I have to admit, I have never looked back. Anyway, after a number of other jobs that moved me closer into the world of software development, I found myself working for a software company specializing in Salesforce automation solutions based on Lotus Notes. And this is obviously where I created or ended up with the connection to IBM, as IBM had purchased Lotus just a few years earlier. And throughout a number of other interconnected events, I ended up joining IBM and embarked into what was a strong family tradition. You see, both my mother and father worked for IBM. My mother, admittedly, before I was born, and my father was basically a lifetime IBMer. And as it happened, and quite funnily, my younger brother also followed into IBM, but also only for a couple of years before he decided to go back to school and study for an MBA, and never returned to Big Blue. But there I was, an eager and excited software developer ready to start my corporate career with IBM, and little did I know what a fantastic journey I was about to start. A lot has happened over the years since I joined IBM back in England at the start of 1998. I have had several key positions within the company, co-authored a book or two, relocated to Sweden and then to Finland, had 2 marriages and 3 fantastic children, become an amateur racing car driver in my spare time, and a podcast host of FinTech Daydreaming, a podcast I host with my good friend Ville Sointu. And more importantly, followed a path that took me from the role of a hardcore developer into an industry technical consultant and CTO focused on the banking and financial services industry. And this is where I am today. I have also had the pleasure to experience several organizational transformations within IBM. And I do believe everyone has been, for the most, for the better. Although I also have to admit, right, that some of them have been more painful than others. But back to the beginning of my career with IBM in England. I joined what was then called the e-business services team, and got to work with a lot of great internet-focused companies trying to build new, fantastic building business solutions online and take advantage of the internet explosion. I ended up in a small team focused on the dot-com boom and spent my days listening to companies pitching their great revolutionary ideas and working with them to define the technical solutions that would help them become big internet superstars. I mean, back then we didn't really have cloud as we have today. So the process was a little bit more tedious and complicated to be able to get a company up and running on the internet. Apart from the cloud part, right, the big fantastic ideas, it reminds me a little bit of the current fintech boom that we are having, right? But as we all know, the dot-com bubble burst. Along with the burst of the dot-com bubble also changed my focus at IBM. And this is where my alignment with banking and financial services started. I spent the remainder of my time in England working on behalf of IBM with 2 of the large UK banks before getting the opportunity to relocate to Sweden on invitation from IBM, which I think was rather fantastic. Where luck would have it, I continued to work with the banking industry and the Nordic banks. I will not do a long process here for you, so I will do a virtual fast forward here to try not to bore you all too much with details into my now 20 plus years in IBM. But I did spend 10 years in Sweden with IBM working in several fantastic roles, which had me helping customers implement solutions based on service-oriented architectures and other emerging disruptive technologies, before again getting a chance to try my hand at something new, and found myself relocated to the wonderful land of 1,000 Lakes, Finland. And I have now been living here in Finland for more than, 8 years. Again, time really does fly, doesn't it? But since moving to Finland, my more substantial roles have been as the IBM account CTO for both the Nordea Bank and Danske Bank. Initially, I spent several years with IBM at Nordea, where I engaged on some fantastically exciting opportunities, such as the Nordea Open Banking platform. I must confess that I was adamant long before the emergence of PSD2 and open banking that the future of banking would be dominated by platforms, and that we would see a radical platformification of the banking industry. A perspective I honestly still hold strong today, and we can see this happening, admittedly even faster now due to the corona pandemic. And now, during my time here in Finland, and whilst on the Nordea account, I also had the honor to become a member of the IBM Academy of Technology leadership team. The IBM Academy of Technology, for those of you who don't know, was founded in 1989, and I'm told was modeled after the US National Academies of Science and Engineering, which I think sounds rather splendid, and I hope you do too, right? But that aside, the Academy of Technology is a community of the best technical minds in IBM. Now, today, the Academy of Technology continues to be a community of selected IBM top technical leaders, organized to advance the understanding of key technology areas and trends. And we get engaged with our clients in technical pursuits of mutual value. It is a fantastic community to belong to, and an honor I am extremely proud of having. But back to Nordea. So, after several fantastic years with Nordea and a short stint with IBM Services, I joined the IBM account for Danske Bank as the IBM CTO, which is the role I have held most recently, up until now, and have thoroughly enjoyed working with all the great people at Danske Bank, as well as the IBM team connected to Danske Bank. And just as with my time with Nordea, I have made some fantastically close connections who will remain my friends, I hope, for many years to come. But sometimes an opportunity comes your way that you just cannot refuse. And that was the case for me. And as such, I am set to start a new chapter in my IBM career. And that's the reason for this video. As of the 1st of December 2020, I am taking on a new and exciting journey with IBM. And this time, I'm back with the consulting services part of the company. You see, last year, in collaboration with Bank of America, IBM designed an industry-first platform, the IBM Cloud for Financial Services. Now, this public cloud platform leverages the highest levels of encryption certification available today. Essentially, it is the world's first financial services ready public cloud. In addition to offering a secure cloud platform, we at IBM believe it is equally important to build a trusted ecosystem around it. And that is why IBM are excited about the fact that more than 50 partners have joined the ecosystem to date. And the list is continuing to grow. A critical group of partners in this growing ecosystem is the list of core banking ISV vendors such as Temenos, Thought Machine, and many others. Together, we are working to create a secure financial services ecosystem where banks, ISV partners and SaaS providers can define and monitor their security and compliance obligations and transact with confidence. But that is not all. IBM Services, which is the consulting part of IBM, also launched a new practice at the start of 2020. The Global Core Banking and Payments Practice. Now this is a big thing and highlights IBM's continued focus on financial services and our strength in helping customers with driving core modernization and digital transformation to enable them to be future-proof and ready for an increasingly uncertain future. Something which is growing more and more critical for the banks every day. A critical element of our core banking and payment strategy is the IBM Cloud for Financial Services ISV ecosystem, and to drive critical technical and delivery capabilities aligned with our ISV partners. And with this key focus from IBM, I was delighted and honored when I was asked to join the practice as the global CTO for the core banking and payments ISV practice. In this new role, I will provide technical leadership across sales and implementation of core banking-based solutions based on IBM's ISV partnerships and the IBM Cloud for Financial Services. I will work closely with our clients within financial services to ensure ongoing success for them in the implementation of ISV-based core banking solutions with IBM in their new and emerging world of hybrid multi-cloud. I'm so excited to be engaging with my new team and the wider vendor ecosystem of core banking ISVs, and looking forward to collaborating with you, our customers, the banks out there who keep our economy moving. And with that, I start a new exciting chapter with IBM. So I invite you to ping me on LinkedIn and let us have a discussion about the future of cloud native core banking and the endless possibilities as we move into a new world of client centricity and the adoption of the data-enabled client. But before I go, please check out the podcast that I co-host with my close friend Villa Sointu at fintechdaydreaming.com. And if you enjoy our episodes, please consider finding us on YouTube, hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel to help us grow. We truly appreciate your attention and your feedback. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay safe out there.